It's fair to say, in general, annual incentive plan performance measurement is really designed with behavior in mind for an executive team. So you tend to use indicators and set goals that you really expect executives to change their behavior in order to reach the goals associated with those various indicators. And so it's relatively straightforward to say, if you're thinking about an earnings indicator with a goal attached to that, an executive team knows what to do when it comes into the office on Monday morning to try and drive better company performance to increase earnings relative to that goal. By the same logic, you tend to see non-financial indicators find their way into an annual incentive plan. And that's because over a short run period, it's easier to motivate behavior for these things that you can't quite measure in the finances quite so well. So strategic or operational metrics and their goals tend to be measured in 1 year or even shorter increments, and therefore they tend to find themselves in an annual incentive plan context. By contrast, for a whole host of reasons, performance measurement in the long-term plan context is a little less about behavior and a little more about alignment. And what I mean by that is, for several reasons, not least of which is setting a multi-year performance goal, which is what would be required in a long-term plan context. That is very difficult to do, and in a COVID year, even more difficult, bordering on impossible for many companies. It's fair to say that performance measurement is most naturally measured in a 1 year increment, a 1 year unit of measurement. So to mitigate that goal-setting difficulty, and also to align with the fact that long-term incentive compensation tends to be denominated in shares and follow a company share price, companies tend to rely on that. They rely on the share price and movements in it as a proxy for setting a more specific behavior-focused incentive plan goal, as you would see in a short-term plan. So you see more compensation just purely denominated in the stock, and if shareholders do well, then the fortunes of the executive receiving the award also do well, so they're aligned that way. And you furthermore tend to see more performance measurement done with reference to the share price. So in a long-term plan context, relative total shareholder return, so total shareholder return, or TSR, measured relative to a peer group of companies, is by far the most prevalent performance measure. And so you don't really have any incentive properties there. Nobody really knows how to go into the office on Monday morning and get themselves more relative TSR for their shareholders, but you have better alignment properties. And so I think it's generally a true statement that you're going to see different purposes for performance measurement in an annual plan versus a long-term plan. I should say as well, there are various technical challenges associated with measuring performance in a long-term context that also make it easier to rely more on financial metrics and or share price linked metrics, things that have fairly bright line definitions for what performance attainment looks like, less on strategic or operational metrics that more often tend to be measured in qualitative or subjective terms.